So hello and welcome to this instructional video on Quantanium mining, probably one of the most profitable loops in the game to my opinion. We're coming to you from Crew L1 Ambitious Dream Station, where we're going to start our journey here, just a couple of million kilometers from Crusader itself. Now I'm going to be, for this, I'm going to be using my mole. It is completely doable in a Prospector as long as you own it. So don't worry if you're looking at it just like, this guy's doing it in mole. I know Prospector's absolutely fine. The only sort of downside to the Prospector over the mole in this situation, in my opinion, is that you just can't necessarily carry as much quant home with you, so not quite as profitable. The mole though is a bit more faff. Sort of the Prospector really does benefit from the fact that sort of you sit in your pilot seat and you control your mining laser all in one go, whereas with the mole there'll be a bit of moving around. I think one of the other things here is that it would be good for people who maybe haven't seen a mole that much, show you how to operate it solo in the most efficient way I've found, at least. So before we pull our ship out, we are going to just have to take a look at mining lasers and consumables. So if I just go to my vehicle loadout manager and select my Argo mole. So in the mole, because we're going to be doing this solo, the only one I care about is turret weapon slot 1, this is the one which sits directly below the bridge. It's the most easily accessible. I've heard some people describe it as the death trap laser, and suggest that you should instead go out into one in the wings. Quant mining, as we're going to see, is all about time. Like, you've got to be quick when you're doing it. So every little bit of time helps. Personally, I find the amount of time it takes to get down another deck to go to one of the extendable lasers in the side, and the amount of time that those take to both extend out and extend back in once you want to get out of the seat, it's just too long. Please feel free, if you found a much better way to do that than me, let me know in the comments. But for me, I'm just going to worry about turret weapon slot 1. We're going to want to use the Lancet MH2 mining laser. If you're operating a Prospector, then you're going to just want the same, but an MH1. Prospector only takes a size 1, so that's that one here. We've got our MH2 attached. Now, the Helix used to be the only game in town. Not so much anymore, particularly not for Quantanium mining. Big thing with the Lancet is that it's got a huge reduction, 75% in instability and resistance, and that's really essential for this quant mining. It does, however, sort of, while it also comes with the benefit of an increased optimal charge window, it does slow your charge rates down. So it's a bit more something you have to sort of stick with for a bit longer, but it's definitely worth it for those instability and resistance buffs. So we are going to also want to pop some consumables into these. So in this case, the first one I always pop on there is Surge. One of the downsides to the Lancet being a slower laser to charge is that first break, when you're trying to break a large rock, it does take a while. So the Surge does a instant injection of energy, and it sort of greatly fills the first part of the charge. When I'm doing this, usually we're just going to do one run, but usually I string together runs, go and get a load of refinery jobs stacked so I can run them all together. When you're sort of adding up the time over a number of runs, it really does save a lot of time to have a Surge in the slots. The next one, which is really essential to my mind, is Brant. If you're gonna only go with one consumable for some reason, maybe you are just starting out, you haven't got much cash, and you're wondering which of these consumables should I buy, then Brant. Because that is another big reduction to instability. And Quantanium is the most unstable mineral that you can mine. So anything you can do to bring that instability down is really good. It's not so much when you do the first break, it's more when you get pieces which are, as hopefully we'll see later, like 100% Quantanium. Like those things are highly unstable. And last thing you want to do is blow up any rocks, because blowing up rocks is not good for profit margins in mining. Now, I usually just run with both of my other slots filled with Brant. One thing I would probably recommend if you're starting out doing this is Lifeline. Maybe I'm being cocky when I just run with Brant. I find myself switching out less. I find it's useful to have two in case you hit the jackpot of mining and have lots of Quantanium rocks to mine in the same run. Lifeline, however, will get you out of sticky situations. So particularly maybe when you're just getting used to mining, maybe this is the first time you're going to try Quantanium. Maybe you've done some other mining, which I would recommend. Lifeline does what it says on the tin. If you pop that, then you're going to get yourself out of trouble. So if we just save those, we are good to pull out our ship. So I've probably put something really clickbaity, like how to make $500,000 in half an hour as the title. So with that in mind, I'm going to be hopefully developing my editing skills and putting a timer from this point, because I believe this is where we should start counting our half hour. We've got our ship on the deck. We're going to load up and get ready. What I will try and do is obviously not talk and speed up some bits of the video, so that you can still see that I did it in half an hour, but that you don't necessarily have to watch every element of scanning. So that there is the ladder down into our mining laser.
Systems activating. Systems on.
Right, so we're leaving Crew L1, and we are going to head for her L3. That's our destination. I don't know why, but her L3 is just really good for Quantanium mining. So a lot of people will maybe tell you that you should go to, I don't know, Yella, Shubin, Delamar. Some of the microtech moons, I think, have got pretty good Quantanium density, particularly if you're using something like SC trade tools to see where commodity densities are. They are good. They do have Quantanium. The problem is they have so much everything else. They've got lots of gold, lots of bexolite, lots of agricium, and I'm not saying like any of those things are bad, but we want Quantanium. Quantanium is worth twice as much as any other material in the game. And the real kicker is going to be time scanning. So at her L3, I have found there to be deposits of Quantanium, laranite, hephaestonite. There's a variety of sort of other materials within those rocks as well, but those are your three core sort of semi-valuable to high-valuable materials. So I know that the only rocks I'm going to be scanning are going to be one of those three. If I go down to one of Microtech's moons and I go scanning, then there's potentially sort of 10 to 12 different materials that could be in the asteroids that I find, or rocks that I find. The other thing I like about going to one of these spots rather than one of the planets is that they are nice and easy to get to from the refinery, and they are nice and easy to get back to. They also have the benefit of 0G, which greatly decreases your costs in terms of hydrogen fuel. So once you're here, you switch to your scanning mode. That's by pressing tab, and we're going to start scanning by holding down the right mouse. Now instantly I've got a couple of different blocks. Go for the one at 16 kilometers away from me. Now if I keep scanning this at 100%, at some point this is going to disappear on me. So what you want to do is, as you start getting closer and closer to a rock, or to a box scan grid, you want to start dropping the power of the scan. So a lot of people, like I've talked to at least, they've been like, well, you know, I keep getting closer and closer, and then I keep losing my scan. So there, because we've dropped off our scan, that is sort of picked us up one which is actually much closer. That scan's a bit weak, so I haven't got it. A lot of this technique just relies on getting good at scanning. You might sort of say to me like loud, nah, this isn't taking me half an hour. It will if you can get quicker and better at scanning. I sort of find I tend to set my cruise control a bit higher than that, maybe about approaching 200. I know once I get within 3 kilometers, I'm going to be able to scan the rock. Beware of exactly this, right? So there are some rocks out there, if they don't have a little white arrow appear below them at 3,000 kilometers, that means it is a dud rock. It's just a bug in the game. It's annoying as hell, but that is a rock that no matter how hard you try, you are not going to be able to scan or mine, so just move on. Knowing when to just move on, that's also a key part of the technique. So we'll try that again on this one at 8,000. So you can already sort of see there, this just when the light lines up right, you'll see that there are 4 rocks in that group. So I know I'm going to be able to scan it at 3,000 meters. So once I get to about 3.5, I'm going to press C to cut my my cruise control. That's going to glide me in nicely. Rocks are going to appear, and they're also going to be dead ones. So I'm just going to move on. One of these days, CIG. One of these days. Now what we are looking for, hopefully when we get a scan, is a Quantanium rock with at least I would say 25 to 30% Quantanium exposure. They go higher, they come in groups, all sorts, but that's the sort of level we're looking for. All of these rocks are roughly about 5,000 in terms of mass. So 30% equals 30 SCU is just the easiest way to consider the maths behind sort of calculating how much they're actually going to yield. So we want a rock that is going to send us home as full as possible. So there we have Quantanium, 5.44%. So we've got Quantanium, that's not good enough. The problem with Quantanium is once we've got it on board, we've got 15 minutes to get home. There is only time to do one rock. Please prove me wrong. If you can prove me wrong, you can increase my yield for sure, which I would like. But I have tried doing more than one rock in a run that isn't sat right next to another rock. It has always gone badly for me and resulted in a blown up ship. So considering we're just going to target doing one rock on any of these trips, it's worth holding out for a good one. It's also worth not being so picky that you end up searching forever, never taking anything home. Sort of just bear in mind that like for every 10% Quantanium, every 10 SCU that we take home, that's 80,000 credits. Now it's better to take a 30% rock and walk home with 240,000 credits and come back out than it is to spend 2-3 times as long searching for a 40% rock. Or, the Holy Grail, which is when a 40% rock and another 40% rock spawn right next to each other. It happens. You can fill a mole entirely with Quantanium just by getting really lucky. But don't ignore every 30% rock just for the sake of holding out for that time, right? Lovely when that miracle happens, but it's rare. It's not so rare to find 25-30% rocks, so I would say if you're in a Prospector, probably just take home anything over 20%. If you're in a mole, maybe hold out for 25-30. It very much depends on your personal take on these sorts of things, but that's what I'd say. So, the final thing on scanning, which I think I managed to gloss over accidentally, set your scanner to 2 times. If you set your scanner to 1 times, then you will see everything appearing behind you as well that you've just gone past. So I'm zooming in, I'm taking a look at these rocks, I'm ploughing on if they're not what I'm looking for. If you get groups of rocks scanning grouped together as well, they will always be the same thing. So if we get 3 rocks spawned together and one of them contains Quantanium, they all contain Quantanium. If there's 3 rocks spawned together and the first one I scan has Hephaestonite or Laranite, none of those are going to contain Quantanium. So don't scan all 3 in the hope that one of them's mystically going to be Quantanium. It's not. So that's save yourself a bit of time. It's all these little things which add up to you saving your time and not getting caught out. Quicker scans, more scans, easier to find quant. Easier to find the rock you want, anyway. One little thing you might like to experiment with, particularly if you're part of an org. So I'm part of a fledgling org, which is we're focusing on finding shiny space rocks and taking them home, making ourselves some space cash. One of the things we're experimenting with a bit is having a scout pilot out. So we could use our multi-crew to crew the mole more efficiently, or can we actually make ourselves more money overall by having one dedicated scout that we all sort of chip in together, so when we do a mining up, we just work out how much we made and we split. So are we quicker paying a guy in a really fast fighter to scan all the rocks for us? Currently that's working out pretty nice. It helps when you're doing this as well. You're in the black. It helps to just try and plow in one direction, just to avoid getting caught by rocks you have already scanned. Rocks that you've already scanned though will continue to show those little white markings below them. So if you do get turned around, you'll be able to see at least where you've been. So I think for my final point about scanning, if you see the numbers on composition, the first number 1.1 there is how much percent of this Hephaestonite this rock has. The 4.22 next to it is how much of the rock that 1.1% appears within. So it's 1.1% Hephaestonite in 4.2% of the rock. What you ideally want when you're looking for your dream rock to mine is you ideally want the first number to be as big as possible, and then the second number to be as small as possible. That situation will mean that you'll get more 100% pieces of the valuable mineral that you're looking for. That'll let you in turn take home more of the valuable mineral and less inert dirt, which is what kills mining profit. So with that said, I'm going to probably take a bit of time to shut up. I'm going to continue scanning. I might speed up this part of the video just so you don't have to listen to me babble as I search every rock, but I will leave that timer running to show realistically how long this takes. that is a likely candidate. So you would have seen probably a little bit earlier, I did stop and I really wasn't sure on a 21%, but I'm glad I ploughed on for a little bit more because I found myself a 31.5-ish. And it's in 45.4% of the rock, so it's nice. Make sure I'm going to stop in time. Now, this is my trick for mole pilots, so prospector miners, line up with it and get as close as you can to that thing. Mole guys, I tend to go a bit up from the rock till I'm looking at it almost through my MFD display at the bottom. Then I'm going to go forward, and what I want to do is I want to plant that meter counter right in between the pedals on my feet. So really glad that 30k question mark turned out to be a nope, because that would have been annoying as hell. What I'm trying to do here is keep, so I'm just free looking as I use control and forward to just edge myself to 100 meters. A little bit closer is all good, but that's sort of optimum range. Gonna make sure I'm nice and stationary. That's all good, and gonna jump out of my seat here. So yeah, like I say, prospector miners, you guys have it nice and easy. You can just roll right up to that rock and start mining it. I noticed a little bug when you get down to the bottom of that ladder, sometimes you get stuck, so if you just go back up a little bit, that gets over it. Half a Star Citizen is just finding your little ways around the bugs. I think sometimes when new guys join and start playing, then they sort of say, wow, this game's buggy, and it doesn't feel so buggy when you've been playing it for a while, but that's actually probably just because you've worked out the ways around the bug. So we just let our mining laser scan this. So obviously if you're in the Prospector, you would just hit the M mode to change the mining. I've moved to one of the mining turrets. Now, this is come up with the green optimal range, red overcharge range. We've got 31.37% Quantanium, 20.5% quartz, bit of beryl and some inert materials. You'll see at the moment our resistance on this rock is 0.64, instability 6.67, but if I turn on the laser even a little bit, that's why you use this laser head. So dial that all up to 100. You can see we can get some charge. Alt and 1 to drop my surge. A lot of people are using inner thought. I don't know why. Use the shortcuts. Don't want to take your eyes off the optimal zone. So anything you can do to avoid taking your eyes off those is all good. Now, this is where it does get, it's still a little bit tricky. I find sort of using 100% to get into the zone, good, then drop it to 85, 80 maybe. It's going to vary depending on the mass. There's no magic number in mining, which I really like. I mean, it's what keeps it a bit of a challenge, right? And that first crack, let's go ahead. Some people I see are taking it all the way up to the top and then they're shutting their laser off. To me, with like desync, that is dangerous. So yeah, I would not recommend. It's gonna get real tempting once we're just gonna scan all these rocks to see what Quantanium's where. This is where sometimes prospectors have an advantage. You can get round all those rocks and find those bits. We might have to do a bit of moving around in this. So we find all the ones which have Quantanium in. These are the ones that we're going to want to split. So that's a beautiful 100% Quantanium rock there. Definitely going to take that home. Okay, so there's only 2 good ones that I can see from this position. Just make sure that adds up about right. So 690, 923. Yeah. Okay, so that's about 30% of the rock. Now, as a mole pilot, this is really in the way. You wouldn't do this in the Prospector. I can tell you that for free. But I am going to split this rock just to give myself a better view of the other 2. one thing which is going to get tempting to do, you're going to start splitting those rocks, and it's going to get tempting to do what you maybe do when you're mining a Grecium or Laranite, Vexillite, where you start seeing the 100% pieces and you start filling your hold. Don't. Okay? Quite simply, your timer starts running from the moment you pick up a gram of Quantanium. That's the point where you've got 15 minutes to get home. So what you want to do is break everything into pieces and then start hoovering it up. So just so that you've got like the maximum amount of time to get everything in the hold. I'm actually gonna just extract this to give myself I'm gonna have the spare capacity in the mold anyway. You definitely wouldn't do this in a prospector. I'm just doing it to stop myself having to faff around with getting out of the mining turret and into it. So I got a nice clear view on that one. I'm going to start with the one at the back, which is going to hopefully be slightly easier. Now again, sorry, I'm going to shut down the laser. 9.56 instability. On this 100% one, 10 instability. This is why we brought the brand. So already by dropping our Lancet head onto this, we're going to bring that right down. So minus 75% to 2.39. 2.39 is still quite jerky. So what I'm going to do is just take it up quite gently. It doesn't require too much power, these things, but you can see it's jerking all around the place. So go wait till I'm approaching the green zone, because I'm then going to drop my Brant. And now that has brought my instability down to 0.59, resistance down to 0.22. Reason I tend to just get it close to the green zone before I drop that is, as you can see, the Brant is on a 90-second timer, I believe. Right, now this is the bit where I do just need to concentrate so I don't embarrass myself with my mining skills. So yeah, beware the desync. So sometimes you will just get moments where it will just gap right up and into the red. And if you are one of these people going right up towards the red and then taking the mining laser off it quickly, just more danger really that you desync and that ruins your day. So we've got some lovely bits of Quantanium. Don't touch them just yet. Double check to make sure that we haven't missed any bits, just in case this is your first time seeing some mining videos. The yellow pieces with the yellow edges to them, they require breaking. If you get the purple border to them, that's where you can extract them, and you definitely shouldn't use mining mode on them because you'll just blow them up. So our Brant on the left hand side has run out, so we're going to drop another one on this one in exactly the same way. Just going to get it going first. Now, so I wouldn't want to have picked up any of that Quantanium because my clock would be ticking. And particularly if I sometimes these things you sometimes get a piece which just for no reason takes you ages to crack. You just have a bad day. And you don't want to leave a piece like this, because if you don't leave, then your ship's going to blow up. So do all of your braking in one go, and then do all of your extracting in one go. So even with all this Brant, these are still a bit finicky. Finicky? Is that a word? I'm not sure. Maybe it is now. So I'm just gently changing my my intensity. You can see that over on the left hand side, just to keep that nicely in the green. One thing I do like about the mole is that because it's removed, you've got like this nicer dead zone, so you don't find like the laser moves around over the place so much, so you have to like actually properly pull it. That is a little advantage to the mole I do like, but you know, is that worth spending 5.1 million on? I don't know. Right, so now that we've broken all the rocks with Quantanium in them, we're gonna switch to extraction mode and start pulling this in. Now we're getting the message already, volatile cargo collection. So you'll see my cargo over on the left hand side telling me what I've got. Soon we'll see a timer appear below that. Now you can also, on the right hand side, you'll see this one is 100% Quantanium. You can see what your piece entails. If you're in a Prospector, I would scan all these bits first to make sure that I prioritized picking up the 100% pieces before the 70% pieces. Because I'm in a mold and I know I've got plenty of cargo, I'm not bothered. I know that I'm going to be able to have space to take all this home. And there we go. So it was a 31% rock, wasn't it? So we're getting towards 30 of quant. Just make sure I didn't miss any pieces. Some of these are from that rock I just tried to get out of the way earlier. So that's it all done. So you can see we're down to 14 minutes left because because we broke everything first. I have just made a mistake that is a mistake for the mole. So this is mole specific. The laser doesn't turn itself off automatically, which can sometimes leave the turret still activated. I have found, as one of the potential bugs, that you want to always turn the power off. You don't want to land with that laser powered on. Maybe I'm just searching for correlation without causation, but I swear, a couple of times I've had plenty of time left on my Quantanium as I've come in to land, and I've landed and my Quantanium has just instantly gone critical. So, and the correlation I've found for those times has been I left my mining laser powered on. So I am going to instantly set my way back. Sometimes you get that bug as well. Just right click a bit, reopen your F2 map after you've closed it. Set course for crew L1, our home base, about 5 million kilometers away. Engage. Now we've got like a tiny bit of time to while we just cruise along, I guess. I think it's worth also talking about refining versus selling raw. So selling raw, gonna get 44 per unit for this. If I refine it, it will double in value pretty much. Prices fluctuate, particularly at the TDDs where you have to sell them. So maybe not quite double, but still double is quite significant. I tend to refine all of my stuff. One thing though that you would need to factor in for like that is, do you have a cargo ship? Like, because if you don't have a cargo ship, then you're probably better off just selling raw, or factoring in renting a cargo ship. If you go down that route of renting a cargo ship, I think you can rent a freelancer for about 50k, which is probably worth it. I think you can also, there's Constellation, is it Andromeda? Please correct me if I'm in the comments if I'm wrong on that. Which is probably the highest SCU rental ship available at the time of recording. Personally, I like the Freelancer, so you can rent those. If you go rent it, by all means, but what I would do is stack some refinery jobs, so you're not just renting it for a day to move like one refinery job. Right, once we get here, we're 73 kilometers away. It's possible to do another jump to get ourselves closer, but there's a little bit of a cooldown on the engines. It's quicker to wait for the cooldown and do the extra jump than it is to travel the 70. Well, you cut out about 50 kilometers, but it's quicker to jump it. Also means that you won't be risking going through an asteroid field with volatile cargo for quite as much. As you can see, my piloting skills are fantastic. Now, I tend to bring this in about 400 meters per second. I know that when I request landing, it's going to pop me down on one of those lower splints, I hope. But I'm going to cut my thrust just on the edges, round about here, and let myself come to a stop. Let's get ourselves a landing slot. Hoping it's going to bring me in on one of those lower ones. Yeah. Drop my landing gear. Now, again, if you can just find the perfect speed to bring yourself in at and cruise to control, bring yourself in as fast as possible. The one bit you do not rush is you do not rush the landing. Quantanium has its nice timer and stuff, but if you stack the landing, that's going to go critical immediately on you. And then, good luck, my friend. So for the landing, we'll bring it in nice and slow. Now, up at the top right, we've got our volatile cargo button. When the Quantanium is down to 8 minutes, that will start beeping yellow. So we know we are in plenty of time at the moment. So there is no reason to rush this bit. If you need, just use X to do your brake to just bring yourself to a complete stop. Now I'm nicely positioned. I just like to bring it down at 1 to 2 meters per second, no more. Landing complete. Shut off our power. Again, advantages for Prospector pilots. You do not have quite so far to actually get out of your ship. so like I say, this is absolutely possible in the Prospector. Only upside with the mole is that if we find slightly bigger rocks, or rocks with decent amounts of Quantanium but spread in with some other materials, there's more chance that the mole is gonna bring more quant home. Still, Prospector's more than capable of bringing home really good hauls with sort of refined values of, well, I think if you sort of get the maximum like 30 odd SCU of cargo in the Prospector, then you're talking about give or take 250,000 credits. Obviously the mole just lets you potentially net a lot more of that. Always a bit of a disappointment, personally, I find, when I take my Prospector out and then I come across a 45% Quantanium rock. When you get back here, store your vehicle. The refineries are generally, I find, have been implemented really well. But one thing I have noticed is that sometimes they don't pick up the vehicle on the pad. So we're going to run down here. Every one of these refinery stations is different. So particularly if you're looking to Quantanium mine, it's worth going on a little refinery tour first. Well, station tour, just to make sure that you know where the lift is from the point where you get to the hangar elevators. This gloriously was so far, touch wood, a nice run where things like my quantum drive worked first time every time, and you know my F2 Galaxy map only minorly screwed up. Some of those things can add up, and sometimes you will be coming in an awful lot hotter than I have to be at the moment. So in those circumstances, it's good to definitely know which lift you're running to. We run all the way to the end here, straight up the stairs. Ignore those two terminals unless you want to just sell the ore straight away. Come to this one instead. Now, one of the reasons I do really like doing this at Crew L1 is Crew L1 gives you a little boost to your Quantanium, so plus 3% yields. Select material location, I'll go mole, set up our work order. Just look at the Quantanium. Sometimes Quantanium comes with Berace, I'd refine that as well. All these different methods, I am quite patient, so I go with Dynamic Solvention. This is going to get me the best yield, nearly all of the quantity remains, and it's very cost effective. It takes a day and 19 hours though. I'm not bothered by that. I will just keep doing these runs, stack up like 5-6 of them, and I'm going to come back in a couple of days, fill up a cargo ship and take it to go sell and get myself a nice big payday, and then probably blow it on another ship or some guns that I'm rubbish at using. So there we have it. I know we went a little bit over the half hour there, 38 minutes I think, but this is a bit hit and miss. Some runs are going to take you longer than others. Sometimes you go out and the first thing you go scan is going to be a pristine Quantanium rock that you want to take home. So it does sort of average out. You can fit about 2 runs into an hour, and if you manage to take home 250k per run, which is sort of base level for a 30% rock, then you'll be hitting that 500,000. If you get anything a bit better, then that's gonna set you up, pushing your profits higher. And sort of the best hour I've done certainly has just moved past the 1 million mark, so that's more than possible as well, particularly with the bigger cargo capacity of the mole. I know I've stressed it already in this video, but you know, more than possible with a Prospector as well. So like, don't think this is only possible to do if you've got the mole. The mole just makes it easier, does increase your profits once you get used to moving around the ship, particularly if you're solo, and also has the benefit of, like, you know, multi-crew is a lot of fun, and if you've got mates or you make some friends in the game who want to try out a bit of mining, it's great to be able to just go, you just worry about operating a laser or flying the ship, don't have to worry about 2 things at the same time. And finally, I sort of hope that this has shown you that with this sort of setup, it's more than possible to afford anything you really want to afford in the game. I know with Star Citizen there's a lot of content on ships, and you know, we all like shiny ships and shiny guns, but at the same time, those things are very expensive in real life terms, and I hope you don't get into some trouble with your significant other or maybe your bank manager, if you can just sort of find better ways to make some cash in game, particularly at this stage of the game. You know, want to try stuff out. Maybe after you've bought it in game, you might be like, nah, this is the ship for me. So I do want to make that purchase. But this is definitely a better way, I think, to try stuff out at this stage. If it was helpful for you, I'd really appreciate a like. I'm afraid I don't have any great giveaways to close out on like some of the more cemented streamers and YouTubers in our community. But if this was helpful, then it'd be good to just see that it was, and indeed sort of drop me a comment if this was of use to you, or if you'd want to see some other stuff. So obviously I'm starting from a position of this is what you would do to make decent cash with your Prospector or your mole. But if you would be interested in seeing maybe something about how to make the money to buy a Prospector in the beginning, then that's something I could look to do as well, because that's the way I've bought everything I have in game. So yeah, thanks very much for watching and staying all the way to the end. And if you've got time in the next couple of days, do take a trip to Levski for the best dive bar in town. Catch you later.